let's do this.
Welcome back to Recap IT. Today we are going to recap a 2011 romantic comedy movie titled Bad Teacher. Elizabeth, an inept and slacker school teacher, gets dumped by her wealthy fiancé. Later, she tries to seduce a wealthy alternative, Scott, while competing for his attention with a coworker, Amy. But before we begin, please consider subscribing to this channel. Now without wasting any further time, let's begin, shall we? We notice a lady named Elizabeth at the start of the film. She's a major gold digger who also works as a teacher, but she despises her job and wishes to marry a wealthy man and live in luxury for the rest of her life. Elizabeth deceived a very wealthy man. She had quit her work as a teacher since she was ready to marry him. She then proceeded to meet her spouse at his home. Her lover was in the company of his mother. Her boyfriend had already packed her belongings. Actually, Elizabeth's boyfriend's mother has already shown to him that she does not love him and is only marrying him for his money. He then ejected her from his home. Her intention to marry a wealthy man was suddenly shattered, and she had also lost her job. That is why she had to return to that school as a teacher. She met another teacher named Amy after arriving at the school. Amy attempted to converse with her, but Elizabeth was unpleasant to her and had an attitude. It didn't sit well with Amy. Elizabeth went to a pub that night in order to seduce a wealthy man. Then a man entered the room. Elizabeth began flirting with him and attempted to seduce him, but when she discovered that he was not wealthy, she dumped him. When Elizabeth emerged from the canteen, she was greeted by a gorgeous teacher, whose name was Scott. Scott was wearing a very expensive watch, and Elizabeth spotted it and assumed he was a wealthy man. That's why Elizabeth chose to have her breasts implanted in order to impress Scott. She then went to the doctor to get her breasts implanted, but the doctor informed her that the surgery would cost her $9,000. Because she didn't have enough money, Elizabeth was astonished to hear this. Elizabeth wore such a short outfit to school so that people would be drawn to her and come to wash their cars. Elizabeth made a lot of money at the car wash, so she stole it and kept it. Then things began to improve, and Elizabeth's parents gave her some money so she could care for their children. Elizabeth's buddy informed her that the school will be holding a test, and that the first student's teacher would be rewarded. Elizabeth was able to manage her money for her breast implants once more as a result of this. The next day, she went to class and began stern instruction with her students in order for her class to be at the top of the class list. She devised a strategy to ensure that her students scored highly on the exam. The test was taken 1 month later. Her classmates came out on top in this exam. Then Elizabeth received the $5,700,000. Elizabeth was overjoyed. She's able to do her breast implants now. After a few days, the school planned a trip, but Elizabeth planted something in Amy's apple, preventing her from accompanying Scott on this excursion. Amy's face grew so awful with pimples after she ate the apple that she didn't go on the vacation, and she became enraged when she saw Scott going on a trip with Elizabeth. When Amy returned to school, she carried Elizabeth's desk to her class and placed it in Elizabeth's class. She then called a worker and requested him to break the lock on Elizabeth's desk, claiming it was hers, and when she examined the drawer, she discovered the test answer sheet. Then she realized why Elizabeth's students had done so well on the test. Amy took the answer sheet to the principal's office and told him everything. After hearing this, the principal became enraged and told Amy that we needed that professor's statement to penalize Elizabeth, so Amy went to that professor and prepared him to provide his statement. Elizabeth used naked images to blackmail the professor. Actually, Elizabeth photographed the professor when he was unconscious. The professor then declined to present his side of the story against Elizabeth. On the other hand, Elizabeth discovered that Amy had switched desks. Elizabeth was well aware that she had narcotics in her desk, which is now in Amy's class. Then Elizabeth reported to the principal about Amy doing drugs at school, and when they investigated Amy's desk, they discovered narcotics that Elizabeth had placed there. The cops then took her into custody. Amy attempted to persuade everyone that this was not her desk, but rather Elizabeth's. Following this, Elizabeth went to Russell and accepted his proposal, and the two began dating. And this is where movie comes to an end. I hope you enjoyed it. As always, until next time.